In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a targeted feeding project. Before we get started, we need to be logged into the SAP application. I'm going to log in using my username and password. A successful login gets your welcome message before the system dashboard is displayed. On the system dashboard, you can see a few system statistics, number of projects, number of beneficiaries, and number of distributions. We don't have any in the system yet. To create a targeted feeding project, you need to navigate to the targeted feeding project main screen. You can do so by either selecting targeted feeding from the project's menu or by simply clicking on the targeted feeding hyperlink on the system dashboard. Any of these actions will take you straight to the targeted feeding project main screen, and you can always navigate back to the system dashboard by clicking on the system banner. So the system banner is this area up here where you see the LMMS logo, the country username, and the agency logo, which in this case is World Vision. I'll navigate back to the targeted feeding project main screen by selecting targeted feeding from the projects menu this time. Right, so let's get started with the process of creating our targeted feeding projects now. So let's click on this plus button to load an empty targeted feeding form that we are going to populate with the details required for our targeted feeding project to be complete. And we're going to go over each field that is going to be populated in detail for understanding. The first field is the LMMS project number, which is a local project identifier that must be unique across all projects created within LMMS regardless of type. So let's type PH-TF/Kabalawan-03487/2017. LMMS uses a project naming convention to define project numbers. This project number is then interpreted as PH is the ISO Alpha 2 code for the country Philippines, where the project is being implemented. KE will be Kenya, HT will be Haiti, UG will be Uganda, and so on and so forth. TF is the acronym for the project type targeted feeding. General distribution will be GD. Kabalawan is the location name where the project is being implemented. If it is too long, it can be abbreviated as well to something that makes sense. 03487 is the unique project number. This number has to be unique outside LMMS as well. And 2017 is the fiscal year which the project starts or started if it is started already. PBUS stands for Project Budget Accounting System. It's a project funding identification code used in World Vision internal finance systems. This field can be localized to any user agency context. It's basically a backend configuration parameter that can be configured to whatever term is used by the subject host agency to identify project funding. So let's type 999098 for this project. The project title is simply the name of the project as indicated in the project proposal documents. Please make sure you type the project title or name using proper grammar because it will not look good in reports if typed incorrectly. Our project name is Kabalawan Health and Nutrition Project. I'm going to type that. Location refers to the administrative division where the project is being implemented. This location detail is normally preset at the time baseline data is defined before the actual field programs begin, unless the project only extended into a new area that was not initially entered in the system. So let's see what happens when we begin to type CA for Kabalawan. Notice that the system brings back a list of location names in level 1 and level 2 divisions that match your keyboard entry, and the list will be filtered as you continue typing. Make sure you do not use a location name that's not recognized by the system, as your project will not successfully save. If the location is not here, please contact the admin to get it added into the system. Donor is the funding source for your project. It's a single select field that you can select the donor that is funding your project. So select USAID for example project here, right? The duration refers to the project activity period or the lifetime of the project. This is defined as start date, which is the date when the project kicked off or kicks off. So let's select by clicking on this date picker button here, and then let's select 1st June 2017. The planned end date is the date the project is expected to end. This is normally required for planning purposes. So let's please select the 31st of March 2018, which we can navigate using the date picker interface again. The actual end date is the project end date. If the project is by any chance extended, say in an instance where the donor has indicated they have more funds, the actual end date can be updated to reflect the new end date. And we can also type this by simply using the same format that has been used by other date fields so far, that is year, month, and date. And let's type the same date as the plan end date at this point. Household estimate is the estimated number of households that will benefit from the project. This is not used for any calculation within the system, it's only used for information purposes. So let's enter 40. Enrolled is an actual visual count of the number of households currently enrolled in the project. Every time new households are enrolled or terminated, this number will automatically adjust to reflect the current active households enrolled. It's important to note that enrollment in targeted feeding happens through individuals we call primary beneficiaries. However, the system will only count household numbers here as opposed to primary beneficiaries, which you can have multiple in a single household anyway. The notes field is used to record information that is deemed relevant to the project that may not be captured through the other fields that are standard as part of project creation. As an example, I'm going to type something like KOICA, which is the Korean International Cooperation Agency, has indicated willingness to continue funding this project when USAID funding ends. Sorry, I'm struggling with my keypad a little bit here. Right, so of all the fields we've populated so far, only the notes field, donor and PBAS are not required, they can be left empty. Threshold, select this checkbox if the project uses held records of the beneficiaries as graduation criteria. When the checkbox is marked, the threshold links also becomes active, as you can see here. It's become inactive. So click on the link to provide or validate the indicator thresholds required for the graduation criteria. These of course can be left unchecked if the project doesn't require held records. Body mass index is a person's weight in kilograms divided by the square of height in meters. A high BMI is indicative of high body fatness. For adults 18 or older except pregnant or lactating women, a score below 18.5 is considered underweight and therefore unhealthy. Weight for height is an index used to assess how a child weight compared to the expected weight of healthy childs of the same height and sex based on World Health Organization child growth standards. For children under 18, the percentage of reference median is normally 80. Mid-upper arm circumference is the circumference of the upper arm measured at the midpoint between the tip of the shoulder and the tip of the elbow. For pregnant women and lactating women, it's normally 23.0 centimeters, and for children under 5, when weight for height is not available, it's normally 12.5 centimeters. Right, on this drop-down, select the required number of latest consecutive beneficiary held records and meet or exceed thresholds above for the primary beneficiary to be discharged or graduated from the sub-project they enrolled in. Primary beneficiary health records are normally captured at the clinics by qualified staff and later captured using mobile devices to store in LMS. This process is covered in a separate video. Primary beneficiaries with consecutive readings equal or above these thresholds will be listed as graduation candidates in the TF beneficiary modules depending on the selection that I'm going to select here. So it is 3, and it will be 3 that will be required. Click OK. In this drop-down, we select the number of consecutive distributions missed that constitutes a defaulter. A primary beneficiary that misses the number of distributions selected here may be discharged from the sub-project, and another enrolled into the TF sub-project category. So I'm selecting 3. So let's hit this plus button here to begin creating sub-projects. This will open a new sub-project activity pop-up. By clicking on the type drop-down, we'll get a list of sub-project types, which when created will basically become mini projects within the main project that beneficiaries, primary beneficiaries in this case, that fall under these specific vulnerability categories will be enrolled in. So let's go for lactating women in this instance. Feeding months, we enter the length of time in months that a primary beneficiary is entitled to receive distribution under this sub-project type. This is often stipulated in project documentation. As an example, let's enter 6 months, as lactating mothers normally join the program after they give birth and graduate in their 6 months. The household cap, we enter the number of additional members in a household that will receive distributions alongside the primary beneficiary, in this case alongside the lactating mother. So let's enter 4 here. Alright, let's enter the household rations. Type the name of the item to be distributed. Note that as you type the name of the item, the system will bring back a list of items with the names that match your keyboard entry. So let's type Consoy blend. Right? Let's specify whether or not it's a food by prescription or FPP item by clicking on this box. Leave it unchecked if the item is not a food by prescription item. Food by prescription items are allocated as a prescription to address certain nutrition deficiencies for some primary beneficiaries. I believe your project should stipulate if that is required. Quantity per PB is the ration size for the primary beneficiary, lactating mother in this instance. So let's enter 10 kilograms, and this means all lactating women enrolled into this sub-project or this project will receive 10 kilograms. Quantity per non-PB is the ration quantity for the non-primary beneficiaries, the other individuals, the 4 of them that we're going to distribute rations for. So we're not going to give them any CSB, we'll enter 0. Let's hit the plus button to add more items in the ration schedule, and let's enter maize cornmeal. We're going to distribute 8 kg, and that amount for the non-PB, plus again vegetable oil. This is the much we're going to distribute for the PB, and this is what we're going to give the non-PB. The next item we're going to enter is beans, kidney beans in this instance, and this is the much we're going to distribute. None of these other items is an FPP, and you can of course delete by hitting this button. Click OK to finish, but this will apply the non-primary beneficiary ration items to other sub-projects you're going to create when it is selected, so you don't have to type all of them again or to enter all of them again into the sub-projects that we're going to create. So let's click OK now. Let's create one more sub-project. So we go over the process of creating the sub-project one more time. So I selected pregnant women. The active feeding period is going to be 6 months. The cap is 4, and I'm basically going to give them the exact quantities of items that I have given the lactating mothers earlier. And then OK when you're done. If this checkbox is selected, only households that are classified as highly vulnerable, a classification that is done during registration, will receive non-primary beneficiary rations during distributions. The rest of the households that are not classified as highly vulnerable will only receive commodities designated as food by prescriptions in the ration schedule, as we saw earlier. So there you go. We got our first targeted feeding project. You can of course delete a sub-project if you need to. I'm not going to delete my sub-project. And we can hit the save button or cancel to discuss the data. We don't want to do that, so I'm saving. You can select to edit your project by simply clicking on that edit button, or you can delete if you want. I'm not going to delete, I'm cancelling. Right? If I attempt to delete, I'll be presented with a prompt. And I cannot undo if I delete, so I'm cancelling. So we're done. We have our project. I hope this video was helpful. You can always look at the additional support material below. If you have questions that you feel the video hasn't addressed, you can of course reach out to us through helpdesk@lmms.org. Thank you very much. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a targeted feeding project. Before we get started, we need to be logged into the SAP application. I'm going to log in using my user